on his way. Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Some content may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
We say fuck a lot.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Mountain Murders.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
My fantastic husband, who's a gentleman and a scholar.
You, sir, are a gentleman and a scholar.
That's what I say about you every morning when I look at your beautiful, drooling face in bed.
That's not what it sounds like.
It's
that
true.
You say.
Yeah, it's what I always say.
You're like, get the hell off of me.
You gentleman and scholar?
I'm snuggling too tight.
That's not true.
I'm a serial snuggler.
I never complain.
Baby.
What you doing, Dylan?
Did I mention how amazing my wife is?
We are a day late again. Maybe we should just change our release date to Monday, because that seems to be where we're at.
And then turn the midweek into the weekend episode.
Possibly.
But here we are. Heather has feverishly.
I've feverishly and fervently fevered over this episode.
This episode's been rather fervored.
Well, we are a little late. I was out of town, and so that is my fault. I can't blame Dylan for that one.
Nope.
But I am back, Dylan. I'm feeling refreshed, rejuvenated.
Yeah, she had to go to the beach.
Really old. I have to add that other RE word in there. I'm at that age now where I'm a little bit delusional. Like I look at people my age and think, wow, they look really old. Or they look older than me.
Yeah.
But then I'm old, so.
And they're 8 years younger than you?
But, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that.
That must be one of the things that happens. You start seeing all the stars and people you grew up with dying off, and a few a year. And then you look at someone else and be like, oh, man, they're like old. But they're like 3 or 4 years younger than you?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's different.
It is different. But
I've been like, and I know I'm getting off on like a little tangent here, but everybody knows we both had birthdays recently. You had a birthday in March. My birthday was a week ago or something. Yeah.
Yup. See, she can't even remember
so
what her
I'm
birthday
like
is.
trying to reconcile with this middle age thing. And it's like really tricky because I have to come to terms with the fact that I'm no longer young. I no longer have that youthful body. I'll probably never have that again. I have all these like wrinkles and, I go to the beach with my daughter and she's super cute. And then I'm just like the old mom in my like granny swimsuit.
So
covering myself on the beach.
You said you're having issues with that.
Yeah.
And see, I don't.
It's a struggle, bro.
I don't mind getting older.
Well, of course, because you're a dude. And dudes, society has, I guess, positioned you, right, to be more attractive as you get older. You're considered distinguished. People look to older men as like, oh, they're wise and they become more handsome. Oh, and that silver in their hair and in their beard is sexy, right?
Oh, damn!
Like you look at like Sean Connery or Pierce Brosnan.
You've got me sounding good.
But people be looking at like what's her name, Dame Judi Dench, and they're not like, hell yeah.
Well, no.
Let me see them cheeks clap, sis.
Society's also conditioned women to be worried about like a fine line. The word fine line just it blows my mind because that's really just a line you can barely see as far as a wrinkle on your face
Can
goes.
I say that all of your lines are fine, baby?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but you know what? Just embrace it. Just be like, I wish I was older. You know what I mean?
No.
I wish I was 109, just kicking around, just cussing everybody out.
Look, I just wish at this point that I could get my metabolism to speed up like 5%. I would be tickled.
I've just given up on that. This is my fat little plump body. This is what I'm supposed to be.
I like your fat plump body.
So I'm just going to embrace it.
It's cute.
This is who I am, and I cannot fight genetics.
But you're adorable.
Oh, thank you. You're adorable, too, and I love it. And I'm super hot for you, but you don't believe me.
But I'm like a little goblin who needs to go back to my mushroom house and hide.
Yeah.
while
Yeah.
engaging in trickery or something.
You want to be a guest on the Creeper podcast?
I think I could handle the Creeper podcast. Maybe we should give it a try because I can creep with the best of them, Dylan.
You say some pretty creepy stuff.
I say some fucked up shit all the time to you.
Okay, we're going to do an episode of that for the patrons. This will have to be behind the paywall.
Yes. So I
guarantee.
encourage everyone to sign up at patreon.com/mountainmurders podcast. Dylan, are you ready to get into today's episode? I know we were bullshitting just a second there, but I love to talk to our listeners.
That's all right. That's like that 5-star review we got just the other day. They said we done growed on them.
That's how I know we're like a funky mold that's in your crevices that you just can't get rid of.
Ooh.
We're glad to be part of that.
A funky crevice mold?
Yeah, that's what
I don't
I'm
wanna be
glad
that.
we've infiltrated your life and you can't get rid of us and we've grown on you.
I want to be the liver spot on the back of your hand.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's the true sign that you're really starting to get up there in years. And at first you're like, oh my God. But before long, that little liver spot becomes your buddy. And you're like, hey, little liver spot.
Yeah.
You're just proving that I've been able to kick ass all these years and make it this far.
Damn. Okay, now I'm feeling
Yeah.
pumped.
You're just a cute little liver spot.
Changed my mind, Dylan.
You're just like a mole that might be malignant.
Okay.
But turns out you're benign and now you're cute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody loves a good mole,
A benign one.
especially when it has like a friendly little hair waving in the wind at you. Like, hey, look at me. Okay, Dylan, we have a case that I can only describe as fucked up to talk about.
Yeah, I've just, I didn't know a lot about this one and I just barely scratched the surface and we got to get into this
Are you ready?
before Heather forgets the story because she's old as hell.
This is really true. I can't remember shit.
Let's go.
Jarmica Yvonne Whitehead, known as Nikki, was born April 18th of 1975 to mother Linda. Linda was in prison at the time, incarcerated for robbery and drugs. Now, I couldn't find much information about Nikki's biological father, but it seems he was not in the picture. And since her mom was in prison, Nikki went to live with Linda's mother, which would be Nikki's grandmother, Della Frazier. Della had a rough childhood herself. Her own mother had a nervous breakdown when she was a preteen, and Della had Linda and 2 sons. But according to Linda, she was raised primarily by an aunt and uncle most of her childhood. So it does seem to be sort of this cycle of having a baby and relatives take care of that baby. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because, I mean, people have to work, people are pursuing careers, education, and having support and family that kind of steps in and helps, I think can be a good thing.
Well, that could be a wonderful thing. We talked just the other day about the multi-generational households of a lot of cultures.
Yes.
It's not real popular here in America. You see it a little bit, but, you know, and that really does help. But now if you're running around being a shitbird and not taking care of your responsibilities, and that's why your grandmother, your aunt, or whoever has your baby or your kid raising them, then that's kind of crappy. But if you're just trying to, you know, make ends meet and they're helping you out, that's certainly a wonderful thing.
Well, I try not to judge people's particular situations because I don't really know like what was going on here. I mean, if Linda was incarcerated, then obviously she couldn't raise her child. And I guess the way I look at it is at least they had relatives who stepped in and took care of these kids, right?
Right, and they didn't get gobbled up by the system. But sometimes you see like this generational instability. Keep going,
yeah,
keep going.
It's kind of a cycle, and I hate to use the word dysfunction, but it is a bit of a cycle of dysfunction, right? And Nikki was described as a wild child growing up, and Della had a hard time controlling the precocious girl's behavior. By about the age of 12, Nikki was a handful, as they say. Della allowed the girl to do what she pleased. And so Nikki grew up quick. She was partying, staying out late, and running with a fast crowd.
And unfortunately, this happens a lot when you have these other people in the family raising your child. The grandmother or grandfather, they're older. They can't stay on top of them so, you know, as well as you might be able to. Or they're just, the child just doesn't want to listen because they don't have that parental, you know, support and guide.
Nikki was a pretty girl and was described by those who knew her as a big personality. When she walked in a room, Dylan, her charm took over the space. She was a fun, loving, caring person and just really seemed to be kind of the life of the party.
I was going to say, get a Dateline description going there.
But by 17, she found herself pregnant by a Jamaican nationalist, and he didn't stick around very long. Everyone was surprised when, after several hours of labor in 1993, Nikki delivered not only one baby daughter, but twins.
Oh my gosh. That old dude was like, hey, man, that's not my baby.
We have folks in Jamaica who are probably rolling their eyes right now, Dylan.
He was out. He was like, I'm not hanging out, bud. I'm going back to the
Well, I
islands.
think he had issues. He wasn't a citizen. Maybe he was on a visa. I'm not sure of the details, but he ended up leaving and was not involved in the girl's life. So Nikki delivered not only one baby, but twins. No one, including Nikki, knew she was having twins.
That's a nice little surprise, isn't it?
Yes. No.
Oh my gosh.
It's like my nightmare. Nikki's brother, Hanif, said they only saw one heartbeat on the ultrasound because the other baby was hiding behind her twin.
That can happen.
And that can happen. And your daughter actually had a scare that she might be having twins.
Yes, my daughter is pregnant with my second grandchild, and apparently they mixed her test up with someone else's information and were like, yeah, you're having twins. And so she freaked out, kind of didn't know what to think for a day or two. Then they finally figured out the mess up.
That they had gotten someone else's ultrasound
right.
or something.
Yeah, it was one of these tests that tests for all kinds of genetic conditions
okay.
as well as the possibility of twins.
I see.
And but they were like, well, if you got the wrong information, there could be someone out there who thinks they're only having one baby but have twins.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's the last thing you want to hear in the delivery room. They're like, wait a second, there's another one coming out. I don't think so.
Yeah, her friends were like, she was huge, and we thought, wow, this is going to be a really big baby, but we had no idea it was two.
Yeah, baby comes out, it's like 17, smokes, and has a mohawk.
And Nikki had no idea that she was having twins, so imagine her surprise. Now, it wasn't going to be easy being a single mom, especially a teenage mom, and with twins. Della wanted Nikki to continue living with her, which is helpful. If you're a young mother, you need a place to stay.
We all need a place to stay.
Right? So Nikki brought her twin daughters, Jasmia and Tasmia, who would go by Jazz and Taz. That's cute, right? To live with their great-grandmother. Linda had hoped that Nikki might move out on her own, gain some independence, and raise the girls by herself. But Della would dissuade Nikki from moving out. And every time that Nikki would talk about possibly trying to get her own place, her grandmother would be like, oh, no, you just stay here. It's a good, safe place for you to live. And let's be honest, if you've got a free place to stay, it would be hard to leave that.
Well, there's certainly been times in my life where I would have liked to have had that option, maybe to, do it for a little while, get back on my feet, change jobs or anything like that. But, yeah, you would expect that the older person, the grandmother, whoever, would like to finally get some, their own space and peace and quiet. But maybe she just loves having them around and doesn't want to be lonely.
For some years, they all lived under Della's roof together. Nikki, who was great at styling hair, decided to pursue cosmetology. Earning enough money made her feel a little more independent, and she started envisioning a future where she could provide more for her daughters, more than she had growing up. And I think a lot of parents want this still. They want their kids to have a better, easier life than they had. They want them to have more opportunity, maybe stability, the financial, stability so that they can afford sports or, nice clothes or whatever. I think a lot of us really try hard to give our kids more than we had. Well, and sometimes it couldn't be to a detriment, but.
Yeah, but sorry. I think it's a measure of success for the parents. They feel successful if their kids go on to do just a little bit more than they did and, have a little bit more and buy a house sooner, those kinds of things. Makes you feel like you've done your job as a parent.
Accomplished,
yeah.
Right? So from the start, the twins were inseparable. Sylvia Shields, one of Nikki's friends, described the girls as feeding off of each other. They were always whispering in each other's ears, like best friends. Nikki doted on the girls, enrolling them in dance lessons, voice lessons. They played musical instruments. Nikki had them dressed well. She always had their hair done. However, Della disputes this version of Nikki. Now, Della said her granddaughter was on the go and hung out with the wrong crowd. She was still partying and was sort of in and out of the girls' lives while they were little. So she was not always around. Della worked for the Coca-Cola company and said that the extracurricular activities were mostly funded by the Frasers, meaning Della and her husband, and not by Nikki. Della said, quote, "I was still raising her and her children."
Nice.
In 2000, Nikki was shopping at a mall when a man spotted her. He was sitting by a fountain and experienced love at first sight. Nikki was walking toward him, and his thought was, I can't let her get away.
Oh.
Like, he just immediately was smitten with Nikki.
Hey, you.
Yeah.
Just chase her.
There was a significant age difference, though. He was 55, and she was 25 at the time.
That's 30 years.
Yes.
That's huge.
Robert Head invited Nikki out for a date that evening, and she agreed to go. The pair went out to dinner, then dancing. A truck driver by trade, Robert fell head over heels for Nikki. He spoiled her with expensive gifts, called her his, quote, movie star because of her Hollywood good looks, and he treated her very well. Soon, Nikki moved to Robert's home in a gated community in Conyers, Georgia, which is about 25 miles away from Atlanta, where she had been living with Della and the girls. While working at a beauty salon in Decatur, Georgia, called Simply Unique, Nikki enrolled at Atlanta's Bowder College, where she studied fashion design. Nikki loved hair, makeup, stylish clothes, so it was like a good fit for her. I mean, not only is she a great hairstylist, but she was super fashionable and really into clothes and style. So she was doing really well in school.
I must say, Nikki was an attractive woman.
Yeah, she's
pretty.
She's very pretty.
Yes.
Now, the girls were sweet. They were polite little girls in school. They were adored by teachers. Some described them as angelic, almost timid. They earned good grades and won awards, but things can change, Dylan, as we know. Like a switch flips.
Like two-day-old underwear, right? Needs to be changed. No.
Please stop.
Nobody.
Just, you're gross.
Okay.
By 2007, Nikki was in a good place. She had a nice job, a loving boyfriend, and a safe home in a nice neighborhood. It was everything she had wanted to provide for the twins, especially the stability part, because she had not had the most stable childhood. Robert said he adored the girls like they were his own, and Nikki wanted her daughters to live in Conyers where they could all be a family. According to Della, it was Linda who pressured Nikki to take the girls to Conyers, probably due to her own guilt about not raising Nikki. So as you can see, this mother and daughter, Della and Linda, they jab each other a lot. So it does not seem like they have a great relationship. And I think it makes Linda's relationship maybe with Nikki. It puts pressure or strain there. And then we're going to see it turns out to be sort of these dysfunctional dynamics between these women in this family.
Right. And that makes sense because when you aren't in your child's life, a whole lot during their childhood, you don't build certain, types of relationships or the type of rapport.
This, Della says, is when the twins started to change. Now, Taz was always the more dominant personality, while Jazz was the quiet one. Yet together they complemented each other, and somehow their personalities just kind of coalesced, and they became like this unit together. And as the girls began puberty, they grew into beautiful young ladies. Yet they suddenly stopped being interested in school. They had been straight-A students, with Nikki even hoping they might be accepted to Harvard one day.
Wow.
But as they discovered the opposite sex, academics took a back seat. So not only were they boy crazy, but Nikki was worried because the girls were interested in much older boys. Which I think a lot of parents would not be happy about that.
She's with a dude 30 years older than her. Nikki is. So that could be part of it.
Due to her own experiences, Nikki knew what growing up too fast meant. And she was worried. Nikki didn't want the twins making some of the same mistakes she had made. Yet the more Nikki tried to rein the twins' behavior in, they resisted. So the girls start dressing more provocatively, which their mother did not like. And Nikki tried to put her foot down. The girls did not like Nikki, quote, in their business. They felt their mom was a hypocrite. Nikki had strict policies about boys and dating, and she also did not want the girls drinking or using marijuana. Jazz and Taz saw Nikki being promiscuous because not only was she dating Robert Head, but she had a second boyfriend.
And in reality, their mom is probably just worried that they may make some of the mistakes she made as a young person. And she and obviously she just doesn't want them to end up in maybe a hairy situation or make some bad choices.
Right. Nikki was also smoking pot and drinking too. So the girls saw this as hypocritical behavior. And I kind of get this because, I remember being a teenager and my mom would be like, you can't do this or whatever. And I'd be thinking, but you do that. But as a parent, I'm also like, but I'm a grown woman and I pay my own bills and I'm the adult. And if I do it, that don't mean you get to do it. When you're grown, you can do it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, see, that's the thing. Obviously.
But trying to get kids to understand that.
Right.
It can be difficult.
Yeah, I pay all the bills here, so I get to do what I want. But at the same time, you do need to, I guess, strive to be a good example. I haven't always been the best example for my children. That's
the other side of the coin.
But it's like what is the saying? Do what I say, not what I do.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that would be the opposite. No, I'm sorry.
No, it's do as I say, not as I do.
Okay. Right. Because you don't pay the mortgage, ho. So you need to hush. That's how you talk to your children.
That's how you talk to them?
I'm just kidding.
No, but it is difficult. If you're in a situation where your kids are acting out and they're angry at you because, they're like, you're doing this.
Yeah. But
then as a parent, maybe you need to curb your bad habits or make changes. It's just it's a tough age, and I don't really know what the answer is.
You could chill out with yours, even if with your evening drinks after work. Maybe do it in your room, or maybe not do it at all. Maybe just kind of tone it. Say, well, okay, then I'll do it with you. If you need to concentrate on your stuff, I'll help you do that, and I'll do it with you. Try to give them some kind of support.
Dr. Becky Beaton, a psychologist, explained, quote, with Jazz and Taz, they're really this raging powder keg of hormones and emotions, and it really plays into their rebelliousness. And I think a lot of moms and daughters have issues during puberty. Those teenage years are hard. They are so hard.
And what's tough here is if you have twins or you have two kids that are only like a year apart, is they're feeding off each other. So anytime you're dealing with one, you're going to be dealing with the other. And they, and that makes it tough, I would say.
Oh, you're going to see. You're going to see Dylan.
Oh, my gosh.
Keep your eyes wide open so you can see. Now, the twins were intelligent and had each other. So ganging up on their mother, Nikki, to push back against the rules was easy. Joining forces together, they made it harder for Nikki to control them. They would tag team her. So not only was she dealing with one rebellious, hormonal teenage girl, but two.
Right.
Which I cannot imagine.
Right. If you discipline the one, you're always going to get the other's opinion on that discipline or what you're doing to their sister.
That's when I just give them like a loincloth and a spear and send them out into the wilderness and say, come back when you're 18.
Yeah. Throw them a copy of Lord of the Flies and wish them the best luck.
Yeah. Sorry. On more than one occasion, Nikki had told the girls they were not allowed to go out. And this didn't play well. The arguments often turned physical, leaving the twins and Nikki with red marks and scratches.
They're getting Olivia Newton-John up this bitch.
They're getting physical. Yeah. In January of 2008, Nikki discovered that Taz had been skipping school. Nikki knew she would find Taz at her boyfriend's house, so Nikki drove there. It was a bad confrontation. Nikki found Taz with her boyfriend. So Taz, of course, is embarrassed that her mom shows up at this guy's house and is like, what the fuck are you doing?
I was embarrassed when the school called and said my kid's not there. So, yeah,
right.
Do your
But Nikki
job.
did not care. She was like, I don't care if you're embarrassed. And she dragged her daughter outside and forced her into the car. Nikki snatched Taz's phone in the process. So Taz is screaming at her mom on the ride home. Nikki is exchanging, this very heavy verbal altercation. They're just back and forth, as you can imagine.
Right, so a heated verbal argument.
They are not happy with each other.
Right.
So they're like back and forth screaming, and Taz is asking, hand over my phone. And her mom's like, no, I'm not handing over the phone. She also forbade Taz to see the 19-year-old boyfriend again. Because at this point, she's not really old enough to be having a 19-year-old boyfriend.
Wait, is she
She's like 14, 15 at this time.
No, that's too old.
Now, in the midst of this yelling match, Nikki was shocked when Taz opened the car door and jumped out of the moving vehicle. Nikki was horrified. The car was moving with some speed, and Taz could have been seriously injured or even killed. The girl didn't seem to care as Nikki stopped the car, running back to where her daughter lay in the street. Taz was unharmed, but seemed pleased with the message she had sent her mother. You don't control me.
Okay. We're going to get about 70 on the interstate. I want you to try that one again. Now, could you imagine as a parent? That would scare, for one, you'd be scared.
Yeah.
And then you'd be pissed because they're just acting like it's no big deal. And they could have got killed or, somebody could have run over, caused a wreck, anything.
This is when I'm a firm believer in, natural consequences.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Break your leg.
I would just keep
I
going.
hope you got insurance and got a job to pay for that broken leg, because I'm not. I'm just kidding. Okay, so the situation went from bad to worse. The girls had developed a game of psychological warfare, Dylan, and this sounds so terrible. One would be aggressive toward Nikki while the other would pretend to be sweet and caring. Then they would flip roles.
Oh, my God.
And it left Nikki feeling confused, and she couldn't trust either child. So she, didn't know what to believe, who's lying, who's telling. It was
and she didn't know when they were going to flip
which,
roles.
Yeah, which one's going to turn on me now?
Oh, my gosh. That's kind of messed up.
Can you imagine how horrible this must feel to be manipulated by your own child in such a way?
Yeah.
And, how would you even handle it?
I would lose it. That wouldn't work for me.
The girls were highly skilled manipulators. The twins' behavior became more and more erratic over time. Truancy was a huge problem, as well as sneaking out of the house. I'm so glad, as far as I know, my kid never leaves a room, which is good. I would be terrified if I caught my child sneaking out of the house. Because it's so dangerous, anything could happen.
Truancy would really freak me out too.
Yeah,
because
skipping school.
I think you're at school and then you're not.
Yeah, when you have no idea where your child is,
and I have no clue,
it's terrifying.
Where you are or why you're there or when you win or when or who you're with.
Yeah, it's not okay.
I would freak out.
To add further chaos, Taz started cutting herself, so she was self-harming. Nikki was so worried and afraid, but she didn't know what to do. Nothing seemed to work. No matter how she punished the girls, tried to talk to them, try to make peace, nothing worked, and they didn't care.
So you could raise hell. That doesn't work. You could try to be their friend, supportive, and be kind of the cooler mom. That's not working. Nothing's working.
Nothing is working.
Oh, my gosh.
And when you're a parent in this situation, it's stressful because what do you do? Where do you turn?
I've had people describe something like this, and they're like, what's the right thing to do? And I'm just like, there is no right thing.
I have no idea.
There is no right thing. And I've made mistakes, but, I like to think I tried my hardest, as good as I knew, kind of making it up as I was going along in parts. But there is no right answer.
There's
you just
not.
try
you should withdraw some money from your account, pack a backpack, and just leave and disappear.
You just got to find what works.
And then eventually, they'll turn off the lights, and I don't know, your kids will have to find something else to do.
And then they'll come start trying to find you.
Just kidding. It's terrible. I shouldn't joke about that. But Nikki, who was religious, even went as far as seeking an exorcism for the girls. She believed their behavior was a form of demonic possession. The dark side of her daughters was frightening, and they were just out of control. Nikki had no other recourse. Despite the severe psychological problems they exhibited, Nikki didn't seem to want to recognize that her girls were troubled and maybe needed therapy. However, it's unlikely they probably would have participated in therapy at all. They probably would have been like, no.
Well, that therapy's like getting addiction treatment for an addict. If they're not ready and they don't want it, it's not going to work. They're not going to intake any of the advice. They're not going to participate in a proper way. So it's really just a waste of time.
When Nikki learned the girls had skipped school again, things turned nasty. Nikki confronted the girls and an argument commenced. Instead of shouting, the girls turned on their mother and began physically attacking her. Nikki managed to break free and run to her bedroom where she called her friend Sylvia. Sylvia recalled the situation, describing that Nikki was out of breath and crying. Nikki said the girls were trying to fight her. She had locked herself in the bedroom and was afraid. Sylvia encouraged Nikki to call the police if she felt scared, and Nikki did take her advice. When officers arrived at the house, they got 2 stories from Nikki and then, a story from the girls. So 2 separate stories. Nikki was visibly upset, explaining what had been going on. But the twins were cool, calm, collected. They refuted claims they had assaulted their mom and said that Nikki hated them. They told police they didn't want to live with her anymore. So finally, law enforcement was able to get a hold on the situation, getting everybody to calm down, chill out a little bit. And the officer suggested that everybody go to their rooms. It'll de-escalate the situation. Just kind of call it an evening. Leave each other alone.
And do you think he believes these young girls who are both just like, we don't know what's going on with her? And then mom's kind of frazzled. And in his head, he might be thinking like, is the issue with the mom or is it with the kids? He might
I'm
not.
about to tell you, Dylan.
Oh my gosh.
So one of the officers was a lady named Myra Scruggs. She said she did not feel good about this scene. Like in the pit of her stomach, she knew something was not right with this family. So as the family went back into the house, Myra cruised down the street and tried to stay close. Having this bad feeling, she was like, I'm going to stay in this neighborhood for a little bit. Because she just knew like something else was going to pop off.
Right.
Now, when inside, Nikki went to her bedroom to give everybody space like they had agreed. But when she turned around, Taz was behind her. Taz closed the bedroom door and locked it. As Nikki watched her daughter walk closer, Taz suddenly started striking her.
No. See, no. Now, when you come in my room after we've been dealing with this and you close my door and lock it, like you on fucking Gunsmoke, bitch? Are you Katie bar the fucking door up this bitch? I'm going to your ass, dude. I hope you're prepared because I'm going to slap the fucking taste out of your goddamn mouth. Oh, excuse me.
Out of my mouth?
Do it. Try it and see what you get.
Because I'm like, come on, run up, bitch.
No, you ain't going to come up in here like you run shit, bro.
No, I cannot imagine ever pulling something like this on my mama. No.
God. I wouldn't do this to my mama right now. And I'm pretty sure I could take her physically.
Well,
but I'm pretty sure she's going to mortally wound me before I get her.
I might fantasize about doing this to my mom because she's a horrible person.
No, but
but I haven't, and I'm not gonna.
This is an adult move.
Yes.
In my book, there's adult moves and there's kid moves.
Well, yeah, this is a who the fuck you supposed to be kind of move.
No.
You're in my house under my roof. You're a kid. You're gonna come at me like this?
And y'all been teaming up on me and all that mess.
No.
That's not going to work for me. Okay. And I'm not saying I'm going to kill my kid. Now, if my kid's trying to kill me, I will kill them. I hate to say it, but I would. Like, if you're stabbing at me and shit, bro, I ain't going to be there like, why are you doing this? Laying on the floor getting stabbed in the fucking neck.
Well, no, I'm not going to let that happen either.
No, I'm coming at you like one of the Evil Dead demons up this bitch.
It was a violent attack with Taz landing multiple blows, on her mother. Mm-hmm. Jazz was on the other side of the door banging, telling Nikki to please unlock the door. I'll help you. Like, come help, let me help you, Mom. So when Nikki finally gets the door unlocked to get help from her daughter, Jazz, the twins double up their efforts and both start, basically beating their mom's ass.
Oh, and see, now this is a very scary.
So imagine these 2 teenage girls. They're not little kids. They're practically grown women beating the shit out of you. I mean, this is scary.
It is scary.
Your own children. I mean, this is terrifying.
4 or 5 12-year-olds properly motivated can kick your ass, dude.
Yeah.
You got to watch that shit. I mean, it's
true.
I mean, really.
Somehow Nikki was able to fight her way out of the bedroom and down the stairs. She ran outside screaming for help. Officer Scruggs, who was parked nearby, heard Nikki and immediately returned to the scene. Nikki pleaded for help, but the twins told Officer Scruggs that it was Nikki who instigated the fight. Officer Scruggs examined Nikki, who was covered in scratches. She had them on her arms, her neck, her chest, and then looked at the teenagers, and guess what? They had no markings.
Well, there you go.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
Officer Scruggs was alarmed at how emotionless the girls were, describing a physical fight with their mother. Believing the girls were exhibiting sociopathic behavior, the officer thought it was best to take them into custody. Throughout the ordeal, the girls showed no remorse or concern about what had happened.
I gotta say, this officer right here, I wish she was patrolling my neighborhood.
Right?
Because she knows what the deal is.
Yeah, she's smart. She's
going
perceptive.
with, yes.
She knows what's up.
She's working the job. She's going from, I'm sure, experience. And a lot of cops, the cops around here don't care. They don't care about anything. They certainly don't seem like your safety is their number one priority.
No, it's like the last thing you're thinking about.
Honestly, I truly think that's when there started becoming a kind of a gap between the public and cops, is when they started teaching them that. And I don't want the cops to get hurt. When I see cops killed in the line of duty, we were talking just the other day about a trooper who was killed by this monster maniac man right up the road on the interstate, and that's terrible. But when they started, their mantra is, you going home safe to your family is the number one priority. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to do that, but it's like it changed the dynamic between the public and police. You know what I mean?
Well, it's no longer protect and serve.
No.
That's not the attitude.
It's protect myself and serve, my best interest.
Yeah, by kicking your ass.
Because
whether you need it or not.
Being a public servant is supposed to, you're kind of giving, it's like being a teacher or something. You're giving away a part of yourself to do your job, but it's for the greater good.
Well, after a few days of being removed from Nikki's house, the twins and Nikki had to appear before a juvenile judge. Nikki told the judge everything that had been going on, from the truancy, the sneaking out, the drug use, and she asked for help. The twins, however, told the judge that Nikki was a drug addict who didn't love them anymore. Now, after listening to both sides, the judge decided it was in the best interest if the girls went to live with their great-grandmother Della again. Della was 81, and when the 14-year-olds came to live with her again, she wasn't really in a place to be caring for these girls.
Not these out-of-control damn teenagers who are trying to beat their own mama up.
Nikki wasn't happy about losing custody of the girls, but she was also hopeful that maybe some time apart could improve their relationship. They all needed space. Maybe this could be a good opportunity for them to work toward rebuilding things. The twins really benefited from living with their grandmother, Dylan. The elderly grandmother was in no condition to control the girls, so they did whatever they wanted.
I knew they were going to run roughshod on this poor old lady.
The girls had all the freedom in the world. They skipped school, spent all their time hanging out in the projects, according to their uncle. Their boyfriends lived in the projects, and the girls essentially moved in to their boyfriends' apartments for a year and a half.
Oh my God.
The uncle's they were just running wild. They're in a bad neighborhood. We're trying to tell them it's not safe to be, where you are. And they're just doing whatever they want. But they did have to attend court-ordered family therapy once a week with Nikki. Instead of improving their relationship with therapy, the twins used the opportunity to bash their mother. They told her how much they hated her and that they never wanted to live with her again. Nikki was hurt, but insisted she loved the girls and she really wanted them to come home again. After 18 months of living with Della, the twins were once again in family court, and this was mostly due to the truancy issues. Della told the judge she was no longer capable of caring for the twins. They were refusing to attend school, and she had to lock them out of her bedroom because they kept stealing from her.
Well, and it's really tough. It really is tough when you turn to the system for help with a renegade child. You know what I'm saying? It's really hard. It is not anything like it used to be. I remember one time taking my daughter to the sheriff's department because I was just fed up. And we were arguing and things were almost getting physical. And I was just like, can you talk to her? And just at least, or even do the old school. I know you're probably not going to put her in handcuffs and put her in the back of the car like back in my day. They wanted no fucking part of that. They're like, get the fuck out of here. We don't do stuff like that. You need to leave. And they wouldn't even have a stern talking to my kid. And I was like, damn, I guess times have changed.
No, I've heard from other parents who've had difficulty with their kids that trying to get any kind of help is impossible.
And I really feel like as a young person, because I know as an adult, the first time I was taken into a booking area was not okay. It's set up a certain way. You feel trapped. I feel like walking your child through there and hearing them double doors slammed shut might do some good.
Their great-grandfather had also passed away in 2009, so Della was the sole caregiver, and it was too much. The girls denied skipping school. They told the judge instead that they didn't want to live with Nikki because she was a drug addict. Nikki, who had no substances in her system because she had been ordered to take drug tests, told the judge that she wanted the girls returned to her custody.
So I'm sure this judge gets a feel for kids bullshit. Okay, he probably sees it all the time. And sometimes the kids are, the parent is the problem, right? So he's got to know these girls are BSing.
Well, the thing is, they're so manipulative.
And if they're good at it,
so good at just lying.
But
bro.
you got Nikki and what she's saying, and now you have Della, the grandmother, and she's kind of saying similar stuff. So that's got to give. The judge has got to pay attention to that, right?
Well, Nikki was awarded custody of Jazz and Taz, and they were told they had to go live with their mother. As they left the courtroom, Jazz told Nikki, "If I have to go back with you, I'm going to kill you."
I'm sorry. These girls need they need a stint in juvie. I hate to say it because juvie can be rough, but they're way out of control. Don't you think?
Yeah.
What would you do? What would be the first? What would you try if you had a couple of kids acting like this?
I don't know, bro. At some point, I might just be like, well, I guess good luck. Oh, you want to go out? Good luck. That's tough love, and maybe that's terrible, but with these girls and what they're doing and the way they are behaving, I couldn't deal with that. And if I didn't have somebody else who could help out or could get them under control, and I wasn't getting help from the quote system.
Right. What do you do?
At some point it's just like, well, I guess you can go be grown then.
Yeah, go get pregnant in the trap house. I wish you the best of luck with that. I tried my best. I don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah,
seriously.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
That's such a tough situation to be in.
It really is. Nikki tried to move the girls from Della's home, but they refused to get their belongings, and they told their mom they weren't going to be at her house very long anyway. So I'm not going to get my stuff.
Okay.
On January 9th of 2010, Nikki threw a homecoming party for the twins. She wanted them to have a fresh start. She had gone to great lengths to redecorate their bedrooms, to buy them some new clothes, to try to really make it enticing for them to come live with her.
They didn't even care.
No. On the way to the party, the girls told their mother's friend, Yuka Harris, that they didn't want to go home and they did not want a party. Once they arrived at the house, Jazz refused to participate at all at this party. Taz engaged a bit, but soon enough, the girls were back on their bullshit. The twins got into a heated argument with their aunt, which ended the party. According to one of the news articles I read, Taz was throwing food at this party.
Okay.
And ended up getting into a pushing match with her aunt. And then the sister joined in and had to be broken up. And it was just quite a scene. And so Nikki is soon realizing that nothing has changed at all. If anything, it seems to be getting worse.
They're worse because they want to go back with their friends they've had over at their grandmother's house, their boyfriends. They're, doing whatever they want. So that certainly only made them worse, I'm sure.
Over the next few days, the girls were still blowing up at her. When Nikki tried to enroll them into the new school, they had a massive fight. The twins were still disregarding her rules. Nikki took to sleeping on the couch so she could prevent the girls from sneaking out at night, and also because she felt safer there. They couldn't corner her on the couch like they had done in her bedroom. Nikki even told her friend Yuka, quote, "If anything happens to me, it's the girls."
Oh my God. We hear this about an abusive husband or boyfriend or wife or something like that, but she's saying this about her own children.
Jeez.
If I disappear, it's my kids. I think that might be the first time I've ever heard that.
Oh no, these kids are wild. They're like evil kids at this point.
I truly think it being twins and them having that close twin relationship that you hear about, identical twins especially, I think it's just it's compounding everything and making it so much harder to deal with.
On the morning of January 13th, 2010, Taz and Jazz woke up late for school. Nikki was furious. They had missed the school bus intentionally, and Nikki and the twins got into a vicious fight with utensils, pots and pans being thrown around the kitchen. Now, they claimed that Nikki threatened them with a pot from the kitchen, that she tried to hit one of the girls, which escalated into an all-out brawl. Jasmia told detectives, quote, "She just started waving the pot around. Things like that, whatever. So I guess she was trying to hit us with the pot."
Okay.
She wrestled the pot from Nikki, who then grabbed a steak knife, but she never used it. Jazz struck her with the pot first. Then they tried to choke her with a ribbon, like from an award.
Here's your first place, bitch.
As they screamed and wrestled, Nikki bit, punched, and scratched the girls until Taz, I guess they had her on the ground, whatever. She grabbed the knife and Nikki's arm was sliced.
Oh, my God.
By her daughter. So in that moment, Nikki runs from the house. Like, she flees. Nikki is now bleeding, and she goes over to a neighbor's house in a panic and is banging on the door, but nobody answers. So after a few minutes, she's just completely feeling defeated.
She literally had to flee for her life.
Yes. That's when Taz appeared in the doorway telling her mother they could work it out and everything would be okay. Like, come back in the house, Mom.
We're sorry.
Yes.
Let's figure this out.
Nikki was exhausted at this point, so she returns to the house and sits down at the kitchen table. That's when Taz attacks her mother again with a knife. The girls wrestle her to the floor, where Nikki is repeatedly stabbed. In total, Dylan, Nikki was stabbed 80 times.
Oh, my God.
She had wounds to the lungs, her jugular, to the back of the neck so deep her spinal cord was severed. Once Nikki was bleeding out, the girls dragged their mother to the bathroom, placing her in the tub. Then the twins wiped their fingerprints off everything. Jazz said her mother's final words were, quote, she hate us, and that we're going to jail.
Yeah. I mean, I think that might be my final words, if you just killed me.
Well, the twins claimed they cried about it, then proceeded to clean up. They changed their clothes, then went to school. Nikki was left alone to die in the bathtub.
That cop's gut feeling about these being a couple of little sociopaths, I believe might have been dead on. Because, even if you get into this and like, you think you want to do this, like, I've had enough of her shit. We should just take care of her. Most people would be like, oh my God, this is way, way too much. I'm sorry. Or, if the first one or two stabs are not, mortal, or I'm sorry.
Well, we all know, like, we've talked about true crime stories and cases about stabbings, and it's not an easy thing to do.
No.
And with a steak knife from the kitchen,
no,
that is not a sharp instrument.
No. And
that is dull. There's going to have to be a lot of force to pierce the skin to be able to hit lungs and like sever a spinal cord. This was some all out like rage shit.
This is vicious. 80 times.
80 times, Dylan.
This is just blowing my mind. Really, this is vicious, and they had absolutely no intent on stopping it. And if anything, it sounds like they were feeding off each other's energy and getting more and more worked up.
The girls went through the remaining day like normal. Other students didn't notice any difference in the twins. Taz was seen comforting Jazz a few times throughout the day, but that seemed to be pretty normal for the Whitehead sisters. When the girls got home from school, they waited by the window. Jazz Whitehead ran toward the road screaming, waving her arms at a police car that happened to be driving past the house. She told the deputy inside that she and her identical twin, Taz, had come home from school to find their mother dead, submerged in the bathtub. Within minutes, law enforcement swarmed the house and cordoned it off with crime scene tape. Inside was a bloody mess. Clearly, there had been a serious struggle. Nikki had fought for her life. Law enforcement could tell right away, like this was a bad scene. There was blood on the floors, drag marks on the carpet, and blood on the walls. The back door handle had blood on it, as if Nikki had made it there and tried to escape, but was dragged back into the attack. The couch was soaked in blood, and Nikki was found face up, floating in a bathtub filled with water. It was so saturated with blood that Lieutenant Chris Moon said, quote, you could smell blood in the air. There was so much blood in that house.
Oh, my God.
News spread quickly about the murder in the neighborhood. Nikki's friend Sylvia Shields got a call from her mother that something had happened in Nikki's neighborhood, and Sylvia said she knew immediately the twins had killed Nikki.
Yeah.
That was her first thought.
Well, yeah, if anyone who knew any about what was going on, that would come to their mind, I'm sure.
That the girls played traumatized well. They told police they had been late for school but had to walk because Nikki's bedroom door was locked at 7:30 a.m. when they tried to wake her. The girls then set out for school on foot. Law enforcement officials immediately felt this was no random murder, suspecting it was a person who knew Nikki because the rage behind the killing was so savage. They were like, we don't think this is just a random murder.
No, it's obvious overkill.
And there was no sign of forced entry. It was clear that Nikki had let the person in or they had been in the house. Officers quickly removed the girls from the house of horrors. Taz was biting her arm on the way to the police station. When officers asked about it, she said it was something she did when she was upset or nervous. Later, the girls were placed in an interrogation room where they went from crying to calm. Then they would go back to crying in each other's arms. Finally, one of the detectives asked what he could do for them because he was feeling really terrible about what these young girls had gone through, right? Well, immediately they perked up and asked if they could watch CSI.
Okay.
Detective Kevin Swift said, quote, immediately the hairs on the back of my neck stood straight up. Essentially, it was right then that it was like, okay, this is something very, very off.
Your mom's been murdered. This horrific scene, house described as a house of horrors. You've been there. You came home to school to this, we think, and you're talking about watching fucking TV. Yeah, that would definitely be a red flag.
Police also noticed the complete lack of empathy the girls seemed to display towards their dead mother. The first person police wanted to interview was Nikki's boyfriend, Robert. Finding him was another story. Robert was a long-haul trucker, but police were able to speak to him, and they were able to look into his whereabouts because of a GPS tracker that was on his truck, which showed that he was a day's drive away when the murder occurred. With Robert's airtight alibi, police asked the girls about their mother's friends, and the girls were quick to mention that their mom had a second boyfriend, a barber named Joe, who worked next door to Nikki's salon. Now, the girls claimed they heard Joe and Nikki fighting on the phone the night before. First, police thought it was a love triangle gone wrong, but soon discovered that Robert was aware of their relationship and didn't have problems with Nikki dating other men when he was on the road. Like, he didn't want her to be lonely.
Oh, wow.
Well, and I mean, he's 30 years older than her, so.
Right.
I'm not saying that maybe they're not having that kind of relationship.
Well, and it's their relationship, so they get to do whatever they're both comfortable with.
Maybe they're having that, ethical non-monogamy.
I've not heard of that one.
Oh, well, you're not in the Asheville know then.
Maybe they're having that he just drops money by when he's in town.
Joe Carter, I believe is the name of the barber. That's what I found in my research. He was questioned, but had no signs of a struggle. They examined his body. He didn't have any scratches, marks, bruises, anything like that. He also passed a polygraph exam, so police were able to rule him as a suspect. Now, police then turned attention to other people that Nikki knew, including some members of her family. It was during this time that police learned of this dysfunctional dynamic among the Whitehead household.
I was going to say, it's got to come up because they've been through the court system multiple times.
Well, a 911 call was found in which Nikki had frantically thought one of her daughters had been abducted in the middle of the night. But it turns out she wasn't kidnapped. The girl had left without permission to go meet a boy.
Okay.
It was during the initial interview that the girls were wearing gloves, and the detectives noticed this. And yes, it was January, but detectives thought it was very strange.
Keeping it on
still
inside.
wearing gloves in the police station. So officers asked the girls to take the gloves off, and that's when they noticed their hands and arms covered in bite marks, scratches, and bruises. The girls claimed the injuries were from fighting each other.
Right.
The girls told police they had arrived on time for school on the morning of their mother's murder. Yet when officers checked the CCTV footage at the school, it showed the girls appearing 2.5 hours late. There was also video footage of the girls at a gas station around 10 a.m. getting into a car. So if the girls lied about school, what were they doing in those hours where they were unaccounted for?
Yeah, see, they're just a couple of dumb kids at the end of the day. And They think they can just, set this up, come home, act like they found their mom, throw out a couple of, oh, well, she, is dating that guy and that guy, blah, blah, blah. And in their little kid mind, because they're still, 15, 16, 15 or so?
Yeah.
That this is going to work. It'll just go away. But that's not how it works. And when you're the only one with wounds and stuff, and I don't know if they know this or not, but when you discover the body, the cops usually take a hard look at you no matter who you are.
Well, with a lack of solid evidence to hold the twins, Della was allowed to take the girls to her house. The girls attended their mother's funeral but brought their boyfriends, which the family thought was tacky. Relatives were upset at the way the girls behaved. They were sitting by the casket, and the twins were giggling and talking during the solemn occasion. Linda, their grandmother, would recall how no one in the family offered to help pay for Nikki's funeral, and she had to rely on donations from people to cover the cost. During the service, the twins never approached their mother's body in the casket, nor did they offer any comfort to their grandmother. Linda said it was not the way two little girls who just lost their mom would act, that these girls just didn't seem to give a damn fuck. Just didn't care.
Man, I agree.
No fucks given, Dawn.
They're all out of them.
Nikki's brother, Hanif, grew more and more agitated with the girls and their behavior at this funeral until he reached a boiling point. Sylvia, Nikki's friend, witnessed this blow up. Hanif asked the girls, he said, quote, "Y'all bitches are going to tell me what y'all did to my sister, right?"
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
So this is Unc.
This is Unc.
Unc done had enough.
No.
And he's probably had a play-by-play for the most part during all this bullshit.
As weeks passed by with no word from detectives, Jazz and Taz thought they were free and clear. Yet detectives were working the case discreetly, slowly, but surely they were building a case.
Right, because that's how real police investigations work.
Right.
They're not done in 45 minutes.
Back at the bloody crime scene, investigators had uncovered physical evidence that yielded some pretty valuable clues, Dylan. Like in Taz's bedroom, they found what they considered to be one of the most gruesome pieces of evidence. Quote, "I noticed there's a pair of brown boots that have a significant amount of blood on them, and they're in a shoebox," said Detective Swift. Quote, "I found a clump of hair, which normally a clump of hair is insignificant in a female's house simply because there is hair everywhere. But when that clump of hair is pulled out of someone's head and then has been wrapped in a napkin and stuffed into the toe of a shoe, you begin to realize that these twins were not telling us anything that was truthful."
Yeah, so there's a clump of hair wrapped, and it probably has the roots on it. You can tell it's been pulled out of someone's head. And it's wrapped in a tissue and stuffed down in a pair of bloody boots.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would catch my eye.
Investigators begin to realize the killers are right under their noses. In the meantime, the girls went to school, they had dates, hung out with friends, and even attended prom, and never once seemed to be distraught over their mother's murder.
Because they're a couple of little sociopaths, bud.
Forensic examiners checked out the bite marks on the girls' arms, which they compared to a mold of Nikki's teeth, and they were a match. Police realized when Taz was biting her arm in the police cruiser, it had been to cover up the bite mark her mom had left. During the autopsy, hair was discovered in Nikki's teeth. So while the girls attacked Nikki from behind, she had likely bitten Taz's arm, and the girl's hair had gotten stuck in her mouth while they were struggling.
Oh my gosh.
While searching the home for clues, detectives found a diary that had been passed back and forth between the girls, showing they had premeditated Nikki's murder. They would write back and forth about how much they hated her and how they needed to get rid of her soon.
That's just so cold.
And took turns writing horrible things about their mom in this diary.
And it's so strange that they're both it's not like one's the bad twin, and one's truly the good one. They're both just cold as hell.
Yeah.
It's very odd. You think it's because they have identical brain chemistry?
Maybe.
Yeah.
For months after Nikki's murder, the twins were, 4 months after Nikki's murder, the twins were arrested. So Taz was at home when she was arrested, and Jazz was at her high school. They were charged with murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a knife in commission of a crime. It took nearly 4 years for the twins to make it through the system. But as part of a plea deal with the state to avoid trial, Taz and Jazz pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter in April of 2014. Both were sentenced to 30 years in prison.
And they'll get out. They're young enough.
Despite their confessions, family members were in shock about the crime. Linda said her granddaughters had been such loving, sweet little girls. It was just so hard to imagine them committing this heinous act.
I don't understand these. I don't understand these municipalities, and I understand justice is the slow grind of justice or whatever. 4 years. Now, why in the hell would it take 4 years to be ready for trial, and then you plea out and let these two little monsters get fucking a lighter sentence because you don't want to what? You spend the money on the trial? I don't get it.
Oh, that's probably why.
I mean, I think that's not in this case, especially. They have obvious. I mean, it's a slam
this
dunk.
is a particularly heinous crime.
It's a heinous. They're little monsters, dude. I'm sorry.
No,
they
totally are.
They're two little monsters, and it's terrible to hear the story and have to come to that conclusion, but it's true. And it's total premeditation.
Well, others said Nikki was always trying to reconcile and was a person who definitely wanted a positive relationship with her girls. And in spite of all the problems, friends said Nikki still very much loved her daughters and was just wringing her hands trying to figure out what she could do to bridge this gap between them.
Well, if she didn't give a damn, she wouldn't have pursued custody back when she lost custody, especially.
Well, folks described her as that had that kind of personality. She was always kind of the mediator and went to great lengths to make sure everybody was okay and
try to fix everything.
She was like a fixer.
Yeah.
So, it really bothered her that she didn't have a good relationship with these kids. Linda has said that Della was not a good role model for how the twins should behave toward their mother. For instance, when Nikki regained custody, Della refused to assist with the paperwork to enroll them at school. Nikki had to call the police to force her to come down and sign some paperwork. In Della's mind, she had raised those girls. It's a generational thing. My mama put a wedge between me and my child. I know a lot of people don't understand. She got into their heads with a lot of negativity, according to Linda.
Oh, wow. So the 81-year-old was not being supportive of them going back?
No.
That's pretty wild because she knew she couldn't take care of them.
Well, it seems like Della and Linda have a very strained mother-daughter relationship.
Yeah.
Then Linda and Nikki had tried to reconcile and were closer, as Nikki had gotten older, they were close. But Linda and Della were still having conflict. And then these other kids are in the picture, and Della's treating them the same way that she had been with Nikki.
Shit.
Because it seems like Nikki, when Nikki was growing up, Della had tried to keep Nikki from talking to her mom, having a relationship with her mom.
Okay.
And once Nikki got older, she did have a relationship with her mother. But then Della was almost trying to keep these girls away from Nikki.
So there's Della and Linda's
some alienation,
strained, very dysfunctional relationship
bled over
was into the other relationships.
Into these other generations of Nikki and then the great granddaughters.
Well, but she could have been killed. You know what I'm saying? The only reason they didn't come at grandma's because she was older
and she wasn't actively
and she wasn't able to go dig them out of the trap houses or wherever they're hanging out.
She wasn't actively fighting to keep them home,
right?
Or telling them no,
yeah,
forcing rules.
And honestly, I get it because you're 81 years old and you're tired. That's because when I do see these grandparents raising little toddlers of their kids, and it's because their kids are on the dopes and all that shit. I feel bad for them because it's exhausting and I don't know how you do it. I can't keep up with my grandkids at 45, I mean, a toddler is a toddler. But I don't know. It's really sad that this dysfunction has permeated throughout all these generations in this family. It really is.
The twins are incarcerated at separate prisons within the Georgia Department of Corrections. Jasmiyah is serving her sentence in Pulaski State Prison, and Tasmiyah is serving her sentence in Arundel State Prison. They were eligible for parole in 2017, but as of April 2023, they both have tentative parole month dates set for May 2025.
And that's the prosecution's fault. I'm sorry, it is. They
yeah, I
shouldn't
mean,
be
there's a lot of discussion about like, do these twins deserve to be paroled?
See, yeah, they got 30 years for involuntary manslaughter. Is that right? And it sounds like they went to the max on the sentence. That's a lot. But that doesn't, they're going to be up for parole in what, a third of that? You're going to come up or something like that?
Yeah, they will have
10
only
years,
served
8
about
years.
10,
Yeah.
11 years in prison.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't think they've changed because I think they're fucked in the head. I think they're sociopaths.
Well, according to some of the research I read, that Jazz was able to graduate from high school, get her GED in prison, and was valedictorian of her class, and that she does seem to be remorseful for what she did.
Maybe I'm wrong. I mean,
But
there are some people that
I just have a hard time believing that
that's cold shit, man. You killed your mom.
your own mom.
Because she wanted you to go to school and do the right thing as a kid, a young person. That's pretty crazy.
I agree.
There was no abuse been even said or proven. Yeah, I don't know. But, a lot of people argue for these young offenders that they have changed.
Well, right.
They've grown up now.
They were, they weren't mentally
Right.
developed. They weren't developmentally adults.
Yeah.
And they didn't understand the gravity of the situation, or they didn't have a firm understanding of consequences. And I get all of that. I do. I mean, I get the science. But I also think what these girls did is unfathomable.
Yes.
It's horrible.
Yes.
And I don't think they should. I mean, 10 years
No.
for the brutality of this murder, 80 stab wounds.
No, see, that's the thing.
I'm like, that is next level, monstrous. And I think they're evil and they should not be released. They should have to spend the rest of their life in jail for what they fucking did.
I agree. With young offenders, it's a case by case, and I look at your actual crime and the details of it. And when it gets into that was an active assault.
I'm like, make them serve their 30 years.
Yeah.
Let them out when they're in their 40s.
Yes. Right. But once you go so far as a young offender, I'm sorry. In my mind, I just think you're a little monster. And I think you're dangerous.
It's sick and demented.
And I don't think you grow out of that.
I mean, I just don't think so either. Plus, I don't know. When I look at their pictures, I feel like they both have evil eyes.
Man, stabbed your mama 80 times with a dull-ass steak knife. And I'm going to bet you that was some of them bullshits from Walmart or something that ain't even sharp when you get them.
I can't believe that it didn't even break or something.
Yeah, I know. I tell you what, you cannot stab anybody with that set of knives we had from Walmart. Them damn things would break when you're washing them in the sink. But I'm going to tell you what now. We done went and got the good stuff. So you come up in here fucking around, threatening my family, you're going to get that big boy, the big blade.
Dylan's going to stab you with his newly sharpened Cuisinart knives.
Yeah, they're rich people knives in my book.
I know, you kept saying that when you bought them.
And Heather's like, well, real, nice cutlery can be $400, $500, $600. I was like, no, these are what, 140, 130. This rich people knives, right?
No, it's rich people knives.
It is.
Yeah.
Are you? Oh, yay. Okay.
Okay. This is middle class people's knives.
This is middle class.
Yeah.
Middle class knives.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is middle class people knives.
Okay.
Right? Because rich people probably got them Williams and Sonoma shits that cost $600.
See, how you even know about that brand? What brand is that?
It's a whole store, Dylan.
Oh, it's a store. It's a whole store.
It's a whole brand, Williams and Sonoma.
Full of rich people stuff.
Full of rich people stuff.
Okay.
All the cool kitchen gadgets.
Oh, my God.
That you could imagine.
Yeah.
At exorbitant prices.
That just sounds like I would walk around that store in sticker shock.
You would walk around and be like, I'm not paying $30 for this cucumber peeler, for this vegetable peeler.
Yeah.
You'd be like, I got one of these at the damn Dollar Tree for $1.
It's true. I did pick up. I needed a meat thermometer the other day, and I had to go get you a cookie sheet.
Is this when I stuffed your turkey?
And no, I can tell you the temperature's right.
I thought we were going to go into the Creeper podcast.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay.
Oh, hi. Welcome to the Creeper podcast. I'd like to welcome my guest today, Nasty Heather.
I'm going to,
Yeah.
I want to be Heather the whore.
I'm sorry. Let's welcome to the podcast today our guest, Heather the whore.
No,
yeah.
the whore. You
The
got
whore?
you got to
it's
say
not
it
from Jersey or
like
something?
Richie from The Sopranos.
The whore.
The whore.
The Heather the whore.
Heather the whore.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, I'm gonna stuff your turkey.
Ooh, you're good. You're going to talk like that,
Yeah, get yourself a big onion,
baby.
big round onion. I don't really know what I'm gonna do with the onion, but I don't know. Anywho,
I can tell you it's
moving
gonna-
along. I've already forgotten what we were talking about like a second ago, so let's just wrap it up, Dylan.
Okay, that's for another time behind the paywall. All right. So I tell you what. Yeah, I agree with you. I think we're on the same page. I don't think 10 or 12 years is enough time for these girls to serve. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they've changed that much because that was a really cold-blooded murder they did.
It would be
For
interesting
nothing.
to see if they are actually paroled in
Right.
2 years. If we see their names in the headlines again.
Yeah. I really, I guess maybe they've changed. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe they're a couple of upstanding citizens now.
Maybe they're going to get paroled and they're going to hunt us down
Oh, my God.
and be angry about what we said about them.
What if they're Mountain Murder podcast fans?
Well, if
And
they're
then they hear us say that about them.
well, I guess it's too fucking bad. You shouldn't have killed your mom, you piece of shit.
That's what, if they contact me, I'll be like, you shouldn't have killed your mom. You're a shitbird.
You're a
If you listen
shitbird.
to the show, you know that you're a shitbird.
You're a
and
shitbird.
You're flying around with your little shitty wings. All right. Thank you for that story, Heather. I'd never heard it.
Yeah, it's been on my list for quite a while. It is one of the most disturbing stories, in my opinion.
Is this patricide? Or what do you call it when kids kill the parent?
Why are you asking me right now?
I think
You
it's
know I don't
patricide.
know.
I think it's matricide.
You always be asking me something when I don't know the answer.
I think it's matricide
Don't
if
you
you
ask
kill
me
your
something
mom.
I know.
Yeah, I think this is matricide.
You know, ask me a fact I know about,
Okay. Well, now you know.
not matricide or patricide or filicide or whatever it is, whatever side it is.
All right. And on that note, I'm going to put Heather to bed.
Yeah, it's past my bedtime, bro.
She's
I'm
tired.
getting cranky.
She worked so hard.
Okay, so if you would like to hear more of Mountain Murders, you can find us on patreon.com/Mountain Murders Podcast. You can subscribe, become a patron, and get access to our exclusive content. We have started a new Mountain Murders movie club where we will be watching like true crime related documentaries, docuseries, and movies and TV shows that are based on true crimes, and we will be reviewing those. We just released a pretty cool little episode on the Texas Killing Fields documentary, which was on Netflix.
That was such a
And
fun
then
discussion.
we have published on Patreon our upcoming viewing schedule for the month of May. So we will be excited to start talking about some of those true crime shows. Got a couple good ones coming up, Dylan.
I can't wait.
You can always email us at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. We will be putting out a listener episode here very soon. I'm hinting that it could be maybe this week. So keep your ears peeled. And if you have an awesome story you want to share with us, shoot us an email.
Yes. And if you have just a minute, if you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, whatever thing you call it, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, Dylan,
You can do it anywhere you listen.
you take care, Dylan.
Thank you. Bye, Heather.
Bye.